my yoga training, explained it in the sense of like, you're kind of like the director, like your soul is the director of your movie in a way, in the sense of like your past experiences are what the movie is up until like this exact moment,
right.
But you're the director of, you can be the director of your life and let those bad experiences take you down a dark road, and you know, make further bad decisions and be reactionary and be angry and whatever they are. Or you can sit back in your director's seat, take a look at all the scenes,
and
have just be like, okay, wait, where
for
do
those
we
experiences? Shed love and light on the body, on the mind, on the parts of you that got hurt, on the relationships, wherever. Like, make a container space of healing, and then direct the movie in different direction.
Welcome to the Relationship Psychologist podcast.
Tune in every Thursday to learn with us as we interview experts,
and laugh with us as we banter about friendship,
and take action by implementing the tools and advice we provide to you each week to level up your personal relationships.
I'm Dana Mullen.
And I'm Alicia Hinger.
We are soul sisters, besties, and psychologists on a mission to change the culture of relationships.
Your journey to becoming more supported and connected starts
right now.
And the gratitude I have for this vessel that I live in, and the magnificence of it, it's magnificent. Yeah.
It's our home.
It's our home. It is.
It's our home.
Yeah. Super cool. Which yoga does that.
It does. It brings you literally home.
Yeah.
And until you like really, I don't know, everyone is still like on their own little journey, but like for me, until I really started to connect the dots of like mind, body, and then the soul, like weirdly enough, as soon as I like started to identify like soul, I kind of look at them, they're totally intertwined, like a yin yang in a way, but like weirdly enough, the more I understand the soul, the more I can separate the mind and body from it in a weird way. Like,
well, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, like your body isn't who you are. Your thoughts aren't who you are.
No.
It is, there's actually a yoga sutra. I don't know like the actual like wording of it and what number it is, but the yoga sutra is, and as a result of yoga, obviously, the veil on the inner light is destroyed or something. So essentially meaning like your thoughts and your like bodily pains or your body limitations or your mind limitations are essentially like a veil on your inner light. They're like clouding your inner light.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is just like the journey within the journey home.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of going, we're doing this podcast backwards now.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, should we say this?
We'll introduce you at the end.
Yeah. And by the way,
this is Nikki for you that are listening, but we'll introduce her at the end. Because I was going to go like start with the body and then go into the mind and then end with the soul. But we're at soul. Let's just stay with soul. Because this thing you just brought up is the idea of like soul is deeper than body and mind.
Totally.
It's deeper and it's transcends body and mind.
Absolutely.
And so so how would you define soul?
Oof.
Big question. We were going to end with that. That was my last question.
That's
but
how
let's
we're
start
going
with
to
it.
finish it. Okay. How do you define the soul? It is just like the way I envision it is like just like this burning thing of light, of energy within you. Like it is, again, it's not your thoughts, it's not your body. It is something so much deeper than that. Like when someone's like, oh, who are you? And you're like, oh, I'm Alicia. No, that's not your soul. Who are you? I'm a psychologist. No, that's not. Because if you take that all away, you are still just you.
Yeah.
So it's like really, in that sense, hard to define because it is just so much deeper than that. And it's always evolving because it's evolving with you as you grow, as you learn, as you experience things. And so... what is your soul? It's just like your guiding light. It's the more you tap into the soul, the more you understand your mind. The more you tap into your soul, the more you understand your body. And those just start to get a little bit more in tune with things even. So I don't know if I'm really...
It's hard to put words to
like,
what a
soul is. How do you even like put like a period at the end of that definition? Yeah.
It's a transcendence. It's a divine presence. It's a divine essence. It's a
absolutely,
subconscious, wisdom. Right? It's all these spiritual things that we discuss. It's hard to put a word to it, but
totally.
This idea of soul being here's my vision. Here's what I talk about with Richard in our part stuff. I think of like, so when I talk about self, it's this self that's kind of like the CEO of the parts of me. So it's the observer of my thoughts, my physical body, right? My experiences, my beliefs. It's the observer. It's kind of like the boss of like, all you parts are welcome and you all have different perceptions and you're all welcome to be here.
Totally.
But that CEO gets its divine understanding from source, from soul. So self is my human still part that's like the CEO, and it turns its share to then the soul, which is the same thing to me as source energy, is the same thing as God. Soul is God.
Absolutely.
You know, soul is divine.
I agree.
Soul is creator.
Because I really liked, I like the way you explain like parts theory and stuff. And like anytime I'm like thinking about it or trying to explain it, I'm like, so you're in Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my reference at the time.
But it is just so true because like
you're the president of the gang.
You with your little hammer there. You are like, I love that description because it is so much deeper than even just the CEO, because like the CEO, again, it goes back to kind of that sutra I mentioned of like, if we aren't working on getting in tune with ourselves and like being aware of our thoughts, whether they be positive or negative, just being aware of our thoughts or being aware of our body and being aware of our nervous system, if we're not in tune with that, there's so much cloud and there's so much veil. Like you've got the blanket over your head and the blinders on sitting in that CEO seat. Although you are self and you are still sitting in that seat, you are not reaching that greatest, fullest potential because you have so many blockages and so many other like barriers in the way that are like they do, and we'll get to this obviously in the podcast, but like they do direct your action and they direct your reaction and your further choices. And so yes, you could be really in tune with self, but if you're not dealing with every single like, it seems overwhelming. It's a lifelong journey within, but if you're not dealing with trying to, eliminate some of those veils, then you're just going to be stuck in that self with those limiting factors or whatever they may be. But as soon as you start to be in tune with them, like you can have all these parts sitting at the table, but if you take a step back from the CEO seat, you can be so much more in control of like, okay, you're sitting at the table, but you don't get a chance to speak right now kind of thing. Like you can be a little bit more in control of your actions and your movement moving forward and how you're going to guide your light. Yeah. And your thoughts and your nervous system and all the things. Everything. For sure. Your breath. Or you can reverse that and say you actually need to have less control. You get to have less control. Yeah. Like you could yin and yang that, right? The joys of surrendering. That is also a lifelong journey. It is a journey for sure. Yin yang. Like literally life is, the more I like explore life and the human body and like wellness, and it is all just everywhere. Left, right, center, it's yin yang. Like left, right, light, dark, life, death. Yeah. In internal world, external world. Yeah. Like and maybe the soul's greatest experience is to have the yin and yang at the same time. Maybe the soul's greatest experience is to teach self how to be inside, outside the same. Totally. They do say like yoga is union. So it's like union of mind, body, soul, essentially, right? So absolutely, there needs to be give and take. You can't have yin without yang. You can't have light without dark. Like if you were to never die, you would never know the purpose of life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So absolutely, the journey within is all about finding balance, finding your equilibrium within thoughts, body, nervous system, breath, relationships. The whole thing. Relationships. That's my jam. That's your jam. That's what we're here for. Okay, let's go back to the body for a sec. Let's go back to the beginning. Where it started. So how does yoga help us start with the connection to body? That seems like an obvious question probably, because yoga, is my limited, like I've been doing yoga for a long time. My introduction to yoga, if you know, was when I was pregnant with Drew. Oh, okay. My first time doing yoga ever was pregnancy. Nice. I was, I did the gym before that and, was, avid, exerciser, which now I don't do any of. Yoga ruined that. Transcended exercise. Sorry, Jim. But I went to this class with a girl named Vicky. I don't know if you know her. She used to run the Spirit in Motion yoga, I think it was called. Okay. Like 20 years ago. And
I had this experience where I was like, wow, I can connect. Like I was working 3 jobs, working in the jail full time, running I was a clinical director of a group home, working for parole, Correctional Services of Canada. Like I was like running 3 high stress jobs, not sitting very still. And I was like, I'm having this baby. I need to like I know it's early on pregnancy. I was like, I need to figure out how to be with this pregnancy as well as all these things.
Totally.
And yoga was the one time in the week where I would literally stop and just be in my body.
Totally. For
the first time I'd ever really done that. It was really profound, actually. I remember leaving there and having tears, and I didn't even of gratitude and be like, wow. And she'd make us hold our belly and we do these poses, and I was like, wow, this connection to my body is really profound. I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, how crazy of me to not know this. Yeah. So super naive going into yoga for the first time. And then after baby, I kept doing it and didn't love it, actually. I just was doing it because I knew it was profound and I was learning, but I was like, I didn't love the sitting still part. Actually, it was hard for me.
It's uncomfortable.
Very. And I was like, are we going to move some weights? Are we going to like, am I going to see some results? Like, it was opposite of what I've been doing, opposite of what I've learned, like the hustle. It was opposite. Totally. Which is why I kept going, because I like the rebelliousness of myself of like, that doesn't quite fit. I want to learn more.
Exactly. Well, good for you for being curious. Yeah. That's amazing. To be quite honest, I feel like you and I have had like kind of in a way like an opposite introduction to yoga, I guess you could say, because like I started with the physical body and I always have been like totally nerding out with the physical body, whereas you started with the mind, and the mind was definitely something that came later, and I become aware of it later, but you honestly just made me get like so much deeper in the mind end of things. But I started with the physical body and just always have been like intrigued with how to push the physical body, like with sports and stuff. I was quite athletic. The sport, like I was a figure skater, so you had to be like really strong and fit, so I always like loved pushing my strength component. Being a figure skater, I naturally was always flexible, like I just started really young, so I maintained that. So to be quite honest, I never did get into yoga to be like, oh, I'm stiff as a board, I need to go do yoga to like move that or get more mobility. To be quite honest, I started yoga just because I was like so obsessed with the body and just being in good shape that I was like, that will be my like tone up. Like I was working out, lifting weights, like that was always like my jam. But I hated cardio. I am not a treadmill person, and I just wanted to tone up a little bit more. And so I started hot yoga for that specific reason of just like cardiovascular.
And that's kind of the Bikram way. It's kind of much more cardio structure.
Yeah, and that's how I started, was Bikram hot yoga, and it was the same poses every time. You could see those improvements. And so on a physical aspect, I saw what I needed to see. Like I toned up, and you sweat buckets in those classes. Have you done Bikram before?
One time.
Oh my God.
Never again. Because I started off with flow and then yin, and I'm like, what is this? Bikram. I'm gonna go to the gym if I want this.
Yeah, totally. It's a different world, Bikram. Yeah. But so I definitely saw like the physical benefits of it, to be quite honest, and it was toning me up. And then I honestly kind of fell out of yoga a little bit and got back to like my weightlifting. I had a hard time balancing it. I was like in a new relationship too, which is like at the time when I started yoga, I was like doing a workout and yoga in one day. Like I was going hardcore with like the physical end. All for physical. Yes. All for physical. That was like honestly like my schooling. I'm a kinesiologist. It's all physical. And I've even like prepping for this episode, I was like trying to think of when the mind really came in. And we don't learn that much in school. Like you learn, the nervous system, like this, like nerve is connected to this limb and like that kind of thing. And like pain equals this to the brain, like electron, neutron, like what's physically happening in the body.
That's also interesting. So stick with that for a second. So yoga does what physically? Like just for the audience that's listening, what are the physical benefits? I mean, there's thousands, right?
There's thousands. There's the obvious flexibility. That's the main reason why people get into it. Flexibility, mobility, yin yang. You can't have strength without mobility, people. But
say that again. Preach.
Say it again. One of my
muscles are this big. They just don't. They just
don't
move.
Exactly. Only strong in this movement. One of my husband's really good friends, he plays professional hockey in Europe, and he says, "Stretch the body, stretch the career." So
nice.
It is true.
Yeah.
So that's one. Cardiovascular health, like dependent on like the style too, like where there's differences between yang and yin, obviously. So yang is a little bit more cardiovascular. It helps with increased balance. So for older individuals, for example, it helps with fall prevention. Within athletes, it helps with, you know, increased mobility, increased reaction time, increased concentration. We're getting to the mind, but intentional movement, injury prevention, you know, adaptability. That's a big thing that I feel like people overlook within the physical realm, is that yoga, you work in all planes, like forward, backward, side, side, and then rotational, right? So slipping on ice, you're more likely to have less injury from that if you do practice yoga just for reactionary and your body being more adaptable than if you didn't do yoga and you only lifted weights within those like controlled planes.
And I just think the natural,
so many.
the natural, like, so we were in Hawaii just last week, and my friend was going golfing to store back. I'm like, let me show you some back twists. And I'm like, we have to do both sides. I was like, this is what Nikki does. And we're laying on the ground, literally in the parking lot. So it's on Facebook.
Here, pressure there,
So just that idea of like physically knowing, like, oh, if this part of your back is sore, let's work the other side of your back too. Let's do both sides. It's just the physical knowledge that I'm not a kinesiologist. I have no physical background, but just the knowledge of knowing those postures and knowing how yoga works.
Absolutely. So yeah, another physical benefit, pain relief, injury prevention. There's just, the list goes on and on and on. Like for me, for example, I've got a sore shoulder and neck, and that's from an emotional end of things, but it's a physical injury for me right now. So there's just so many benefits.
So before we go to the mind, so just what are the different types of yoga? People that don't know the different types, just kind of.
There's lots.
You said yin and yang?
Yeah, well, that's the technical way of pronunciation. Yin yang is like Americanized, essentially. So yang is essentially Y-A-N-G.
Okay, so yang is the more active cardio. Bikram would fit in there, hot yoga stuff.
Well, kind of. I guess you could say it that way. And to be honest, yin yang, like yang isn't really, I don't think, used within the yoga community. That is just like kind of, I think, the term that like my instructors use, and it just resonates really well with me in just like the overall health and wellness like realm, and it just makes sense, yin yang. But to be quite technical, like my yang training is actually hatha vinyasa, essentially. So hatha vinyasa, it's a little bit more slower paced. Like you hold each pose for like a breath or two, but you're still creating fluidity and movement within the breath. And that one's more for like warming the body and getting your heart rate up and sweating and your strength and your balance, and you're working more of those physical benefits. And then yin is kind of its own little realm, I guess you could say, within the yoga community. Yin is the more restorative. If you really wanted to get down to the nitty gritty, there is a difference between yin and restorative. Just based on how many props you're using and how long you're holding each pose. Restorative is actually supposed to be a lot more relaxing than the yins that we do. And then just like you're sinking in, you're not really reaching that edge of flexibility. In restorative, it's more like a calming for the nervous system in a way, whereas yin is you are trying to reach your physical edge, and because you're holding it for multiple minutes, then you're targeting the fascia of the muscle, the deeper tissues. That's
when I start to vibrate.
Sorry, not muscle of the body, but I'm like, Nikki, are we done yet? But the yin is you're reaching that physical edge while targeting the deeper tissues of the body, so that you're creating length and that flexibility and that mobility, whereas like restorative is more for like restoring your energy balance, and like just it's not as like intense, if you really want to look at it that way.
So if you're looking to go to a yoga class, and you then really get mindful and ask yourself, what is it you're hoping to gain? Like, what do you want to gain from this class? And then find the class that's going to serve those needs. So if you just really want to restore, if you want a bit of yin, where it's a bit of like pushing yourself to those fascia limits where you're going to feel a little shaky, but also really relaxed. Like those are my favorite, obviously, you know that. Flows a bit more, vinyasa's a bit more.
Absolutely.
Like, obviously Bikram's a bit more.
Bikram's like, it's all like, I don't know if it's really like kind of like a pyramid scheme. It's kind of, they are all kind of invented by different people, for sure. So there is different philosophies behind all of them, and that's where the differences really come into play. Like I can't really say that like Bikram is harder than
it's different though.
Like like power vinyasa. It's
Right.
just like a different style, for
Right.
example. And again, the philosophy behind it and the teaching, like the philosophical teachings. Is that
Yeah,
the word?
philosophical, yeah.
Teachings behind it are just different. And it's the style of flow that's different. But plain and simple, if you're just like brand spanking new to yoga, it's like you want to start to identify if you want like the more active yang approach, and therefore you're going to be looking at either like the power vinyasa or the Bikram or my hatha vinyasa.
Right.
There's also like rocket yoga, and there's just like so many
Right,
different
all
like
that.
styles within that. And then, or you want like the calming and restorative, and then you can go to either the yin or the restorative, which, to be quite honest, they're like within the same thing.
Yeah.
It's really just what the teachings are of the
Yeah.
instructor.
So I think just from, I'm thinking like back to my beginning, if I would have started off with yin, is that what ours is called that we do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. If I
We
was
started on yang, and we've never went back.
right? But I started in yang. I think
Okay,
I started
yeah.
with my body stuff, and it was more yangish for sure. But that was the mentality that I was in at the time.
Like you were
Like I was-
moving, you were
lots of
fluid.
movement, lots of
Yeah.
connection, lots of bouncing with our bellies, and then later on with our babies, bouncing our babies and moving around. And it was very yang, whatever.
Yeah.
Very movement oriented for sure.
Yeah.
And then I did aero yoga at my studio, so lots of movements and twirls. And I
Yeah.
think I graduated later on to yin, and now I love it.
Totally.
Because it's not about the movement; it's more about the mind and the connection. I still
Totally.
feel the fascia,
Totally.
like I still feel what you call the chi. And I'm
Yeah.
like, trying to focus on the pose, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think, yeah.
So essentially, like going back to like the physical benefits, like you could get, I listed a lot that like fall under the yang component of yoga, but there is, like you said, the physical benefits of yin for sure, because we are still targeting the deeper fascias of the tissues and the muscles and stuff, that you are still creating that length and stuff, but you're not really necessarily going to get like the balance or the strength or the whatnot. So
right.
I'm totally with you though. I
Yeah.
started with the yang, and then once you learn the yin and the
Oh,
emotional,
man.
you connect the mind and the body. I'm forever obsessed.
Yeah, me too. I'd be curious what our listeners think, the ones that are like prefer the yang over the yin, and why in different parts of their life
Right.
and when. Like, I think yang can be fun if you're still for a purpose. There's a reason
Totally.
for that. But yin is for me like it's like my church.
Yeah. Well, to be quite
Literally.
honest though, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
like your spirit is like your God in a way.
Yeah.
It depends on like what your religion is and how you view life, and
It's a place to
you
get
know,
quiet and go internal.
Exactly.
So this brings us now to the mind parts of the body. Those are, I mean, there's so many benefits
So many.
physically to
So
yoga.
many.
We could go, on a massive path there.
So many.
Yeah. We can go to the mind, because the mind, I think the emotional part, the mind part leads into the, how we talked about at the beginning, how our body keeps the score.
Totally.
That's Bessel van der Kolk's, book. From, if you're not sure, Bessel, look him up. He's at Boston Trauma Center. His book is The Body Keeps Score. He's a psychiatrist, renowned psychiatrist and author and clinician and researcher. And, it's basically this idea that traumas, experiences, painful experiences that we're not ready to process, may fragment in our memories in our mind, which they do often, but the body holds memories of them. And it sounds crazy until you experience it.
Totally.
It really does.
Absolutely.
But it's true. We can, look it up the research. We just read Bessel's book. It's true. And how yoga is one of those ways, not all, there's dancing, there's lots of ways to
Totally.
release it, but yoga is one of the ways to help your body release that without even words, without even having to verbally process.
Totally.
Or even remember the details, but just open the door. Like I said with my experience at the beginning of
Totally.
just having this experience where I was doing my tantric breathing, and it opened a door and the tears were flooding, and I was like, wow, okay, I guess we're going in. And
Yeah, exactly. I love what you said though. It gives you a chance to process it, and it gives you a chance to like move that energy, change that energy, like whatever it is that you need to be doing, but without words.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, like I only just started to go to counseling like a year ago or a year ago. I've never really been a like, let's talk about it kind of person. I like to process things on my own. I'm the island type.
Me too.
Yeah. So, to be quite honest, I honestly love that, because it can be vulnerable for people to like go and sit in
Very.
a counseling session or to
Absolutely.
go and talk to a friend or whatnot. So if you're really not there, or you need a complimentary to
Yeah.
the counseling or whatnot, it does just give you a chance. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to say where it's coming from, why it's there, what you don't even have to say what it is you feel. You
Yeah.
just have to like internally feel it, see it, accept it in a way, like accept it in the sense of we're not judging it, we're not forcing it to be anything that it's not, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can breathe through it and work through it with like the poses and the postures, and like I said, kind of move that energy somewhere else where it's not just sitting stagnant and
If it's
creating
literally
other
like an old
problems.
wound that we could just like open it up the Band-Aid and just let it air out a little bit. It's kind of just like
Exactly.
that.
Yes.
In a really, you know, spiritual, safe container that allows it to do that without having to put, because really trying to put words, especially to traumas that happened when you were young, or even that happened when you're older, that when we're in a heightened state, our hippocampus is right beside our amygdala. So when our amygdala is firing, you know, a threat, our hippocampus can't really create long-term stored memories in a coherent way
Right.
to bring it back then to verbalize what happened. So
Exactly.
they're fragmented at best anyways. So yoga gives us a way to open up that door to be like, there's a bunch of fragmented stuff in here that feels messy and feels distorted, but so symptoms look like that. Symptoms look like dissociation. Symptoms look like somatic, you know, pains
Totally.
or, you know, physical pains in our body. They look like all these symptoms, anxieties, whatever. It's a way to be like, let's open the door to our body to move and release without having to,
Totally.
which is why I do animal assisted therapy. It's very much the same thing. We work with horses. It's, you know, it's the same thing of, you don't have to tell me all the details. The horse doesn't care what the details are. The horse just sees that you're in some distress. Let's go work with the distress.
Totally.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, like a lot of the times, like even for myself, even I'll just like go and do a yoga because it's my movement of the day and it's
Yeah.
what I've chosen to do. And maybe I'll step on my mat with these big intentions of doing like a full on yang.
Yeah.
But then once I start to really feel my body and start to notice like, ooh, that doesn't feel good there, and oh, that's really tight there, or whatnot, it just kind of sheds some light on some things that like you're repressing or you're not really wanting to focus on or, you know, or deal with.
Yeah.
Or, so
It's an invite, right? Just to hang out there a little
Totally.
longer. Your body's just like,
Just a little
there's a
bit.
little discomfort here. Do you want to just hang out with me here?
Exactly.
And then when you do that, that's that place, I think at the beginning we said, this place of like gratitude of like, your body's like, hey, I got this little thing. You want to open this box and hang out with me here? And it's not just the self. The self is creating the container, but the soul of like, you are welcome here. Whatever's happening in this
Totally.
space, you know, because the soul is such a wide angle of whatever's happening, whatever things happened to us throughout our lifetime are experiences. I don't want to minimize them, but they're experiences, and the soul isn't changed. Right? It doesn't matter what happens. The soul comes here as in and is whole and complete as is, and will leave incomplete, whole and complete as is.
Totally.
So these experiences don't change the soul. It's a soul just being part of this experience.
Totally.
And so there's such an expansiveness there of like, oh, there's a safety in that.
Absolutely.
And there's a compassion in that of, I see that the body's in pain. I see that this mind is in pain. I see that there's distress in the system. Let me come with this widened angle of this soul sees all, and it's not changed because of it.
Totally.
That's mind-blowing, actually.
It is mind-blowing. One of my instructors actually at my yoga training explained it in the sense of like, you're kind of like the director, like your soul is the director of your movie in a way, in the sense of like your past experiences are what the movie is up until like this exact moment,
Right.
but you're the director of it. Like
Right.
you can either let those past experiences turn you into like, whether we'll just go down like they were bad experiences. You can be the director of your life and let those bad experiences take you down a dark road and, you know, make further bad decisions and be reactionary and be angry and whatever they are. Or you can sit back in your director's seat, take a look at all the scenes,
Yeah,
and
have
just be like,
compassion
okay, wait, where
for
do
those
we
experiences.
Yeah.
Shed love and light on the body, on the mind, on the parts of you that got hurt, on the
Totally.
relationships, whatever. Like, make a container space of healing, and then direct the movie in a different
and then
direction.
direct it where you want it to go from
Yeah.
there. It doesn't change, like you said, it doesn't change the soul,
No.
for example. If anything, it's enlightening the soul. You're being more aware of your past experiences and how it's created you to be the human that you are today. And honestly, you can find strength within that vulnerability, or at least I personally have.
Absolutely.
And the more you sit with that and you learn to love those past experiences, as hurtful as they may have been or whatever they were, you can find your own power within that to be like, I've got control of this. You don't define me anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever so and so did to you back then, or whatever I even did back then, I'm a different person now. I can change it moving forward. I'm in the driver's seat.
Like those veils you said, it's like lifting those veils up.
Totally.
So you gave me this veil, which was a bad experience or an abuse or whatever, or a name you called or a label you gave me or whatever. There's 1,000 of them, right? And so as I direct, I'm like, oh, that veil actually doesn't serve me, so I'm lifting that veil.
Take it
I'm
away.
lifting that veil, I'm lifting those veils.
Totally.
And I think if we all just did that, we'd lean back to the most soulful place of ourselves. I think every soul is pure love.
Absolutely.
It's pure love.
Totally.
So it's only these veils that get in the way that create, like you said, anger and distress and judgment and comparison and all the things that, that create wars in the world. Yeah. Right? But if we lift up those veils up, then we lean back to this like pure love.
We are. I am a firm believer in that too, because the more you love yourself and the more you can sit with yourself and just like love you as a whole, the more you can love other people.
Totally.
Think about yourself when you're like, you just came out of like the most stressful client day, or your boss just yelled at you, or whatever it is, and you can feel it in your body and you're heightened, you're tense, and if you don't take time to sit with yourself and like acknowledge who you are and acknowledge that that's something external from you, and that you are in control of how you direct these next moves forward, then like even for myself, I can tell like if I go home and I don't check myself and check that stress, like I'm like snapping at my dogs, or like
I gave my powers away, or put the veils in place, and the veils are in place. Who's running the movie?
Exactly.
The veils.
Right. I like to. It's kind of, I don't know why I just thought of it. It's like that drinking and driving commercial where they like keep putting like the cup glasses in front of you, and it just gets fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier. It's kind of like the same with your mental and in a way your physical, because like if your physical body is not serving you the way you want it to, it's going to play a role in your mental health, and vice versa, right? So if you start to kind of take those glasses away, we'll get closer to the soul.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me how yoga does that. What's your you've done this for a long time, and I can tell you my experience too, but how do you think yoga is a way to take those glasses away?
Because it gives you a time to just like really realize that it is like just a safe space to just listen to yourself. And it like that's the way I view it, at least. Like when I am providing a class, like I want to provide my most safe environment for you to just be with you. Like I want to try and be as quiet when I'm walking around you. I want to like not sit there and take pictures of you, right? Like it's invading your space. So with yoga, it gives you a chance to really just like be with yourself. And I do try and really explain that to a lot of new classes that I do too, is don't look at the person beside you. And that is like the worst thing to do for yoga, because the yoga isn't about the posture that you're doing. Right. It's about you and what you're feeling. So if your body's tense and shaking, you're not like where you should be in that pose, and you should check yourself and fix it in a way. So yoga really just helps take those glasses away, because it gives you the chance to just learn how to sit with yourself. It learns how to connect with your breath. It learns how to just even do a body scan. And it's not like your first few sessions, you may come out like crying and thinking that you've like seen the light, that'd be awesome if you could do that. But the first few times, honestly, I feel like it's just like learning how to breathe and connect with your breath, and learning how your breath affects your body, and how your breath connects with your brain, and how your minds control your body and your body controls your mind. So it really just kind of allows for you to start being curious about your own self and about your own self, your own body, your own mind, and just starting to sit there and feel that and be aware of it and acknowledge it, and then start to get curious from there. Okay, well, why are these thoughts coming up? Or why is my body sore there? Or why does my heart rate change around this person? Or yoga really allows for you to learn a little bit more about yourself as a container, first and foremost, because that's usually what people are going to start yoga for. And then to just learn how to go deeper in to learn your own self, so that you can start to take the veils off.
Right. And even just saying that, I mean, it sounds simple as you're saying it, but that's pretty profound, to start the process of getting quiet. I'm just getting back to my beginning days. That was hard for me. It's still sometimes hard. Totally. Right? It's easier now. You create a really, really sacred space. You come with your poems, and I spend most of the time with my eyes closed. Like I don't even sometimes I close my eyes. I'm like, oh, I didn't even I'll be turning sideways. And I'm like, oh, I got to face the front of the room. So like I don't know where I am sometimes. Right? So you make it very easy to do that. But the idea of like getting quiet, like you said, listening to your body. how many of us walk around with our shoulders as earrings and don't even know, or our jaws clenched, or our backs tight, or whatever, a thousand things we're doing in our system that we don't even recognize that we're walking around crooked. It's a place to pause and go, oh, let me just like do this pose or be in this space and just do downward, or just do child's pose or something simple, and be like, oh, I'm just for the first time, maybe forever, listening to my body, and that right there doesn't feel good, or that right there hurts, or that right there is pinchy, or that's interesting, or that right there my breath doesn't go all the way in. Just that starting point is actually really profound.
Totally.
It's a starting place of, like you said, a body scan, of listening to this body that it's like when you drive your car and there's red lights, you're like, I don't know, I'll just keep ignoring that red light. Because there's an engine light, but I don't know, I'm just going to keep driving. Then all of a sudden I don't know what happened there. Totally. Well, that engine light was on for 6 months or on for a year. It's like our body.
Exactly.
There's how many engine lights are on that we're not paying attention to on a regular basis.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. I actually heard something, a few things actually. So one thing that I really, going back to like why you would start yoga is, I think I said it in one of your classes before, yoga is not about flexibility. Yeah. It's about creating safety within your body.
Yeah, I love that.
So again, like, not everyone feels safe.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, to be quite honest, like, not a lot of people feel safe, whether it be within their own house, whether it be within their own body. So that can be very vulnerable.
And that could be because of veils.
Exactly. Because of the veils, and it's constricting and restricting. And the more that you are able to just like trust yourself, the more you are able to then create the safety in your body. Like I do, like even with my own self, like I said, sometimes I don't notice like my back is sore or my neck is sore until I start doing the yoga, and then I'm like, oh crap, that's really sore, right? And it's because you're walking around so tensed and you're so focused on the external world of like, oh, I got to do X, Y, Z because that's the culture that we live in. So until even personally, and a lot of people, until you actually sit down and take a moment of stillness and like think about it and feel, you really just don't know what your body is telling you, but your body is always keeping score. Always. And your body is always telling you a story that is in a way maybe greater than the mind, because like you know, well, like you said, it's 80% up.
It's 80% nervous system is 80% bottom to top.
Interesting.
So the communication is 80% up and 20% down. So 20% is our mind telling our body, 80% of our body telling our mind, telling the brain.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I also had
according to the polyvagal theory, which is like Stephen Porges' theory,
it makes sense,
Deb Dana's theory,
because like even like if you look at the traditional Chinese medicine way of things, this is also one of like, I am not a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, we'll just like put that out there, but it is a passion of mine. Yeah, exactly.
Go see Dr. Sarah.
Go see her. I just like, it's such a resonating way to look at the human body and the way of health, because like, again, your internal world is affected by your external world, and your external world affects your internal world. So it goes vice versa. Like my example earlier, if you're internally in chaos and just frustrated or whatever it is, it will, if you don't check yourself, come out into your external world. You'll get mad at your husband. You'll freak out at your kids or your dogs or whatever. Just as the same as your external world affects your internal. That's why it got there. But like with the traditional Chinese medicine, they have, I don't know, the philosophy, they couple organs with emotions. Right. So like if you're having, this is me just like self-diagnosing, going down the Google rabbit hole, but like I'm like, oh, is it my heart chakra, is it my throat chakra, and both get like relief with my sound therapy. But then I started to notice I'm waking up at 4 a.m. with worse pain, so then I checked the organ clock. It's it's your lungs. What is your lungs? It is grief. So like your organs hold specific emotions. Your liver, it's anger, so like if you're angry, check your liver health, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like so deep and so profound. Like if you really look at it that way, of the body keeping score, there's certain organs related to certain emotions. The 80 to 20 just really does make sense. But it's like a highway.
It's a highway. It's fast.
It's going really fast. in and out, internal, external, mind, body. Yeah. There's an infinity circle of communication like you can't just fix one without the other.
For sure. Okay, so is this the same thing? I don't know anything about this, but I hear, okay, so we have chakras, and those are energy centers in our body. So there's that, which I'll talk about in a second. And then there's these nadis. Am I saying that right? Do you know what nadis are?
Nadis. Oh. I don't know.
Nadis are apparently like energies that come out of the chakras, and they're like it's a highway of the nervous system.
Okay.
But it's not the physical nerve. It's like the energetic nervous system. Is what I understand of it. But then the chakras, I think, have a sound for each one to help resonate it. And when we do this in yoga, as you know, my dogs go crazy. I can't even so today, just for fun, I was in the living room this morning, and I was just like doing it really so quiet, and my dog across the room, his ears picked up. Aww. I can even think of the vibration of Om, and he feels it. He's so sensitive.
What are you thinking about?
Right? And I was like, right? And he right away picked up. So I'm like, so what are those? Because I know, again, Brittany talks about the tantric healing is the sound, the connection, the movement, and what's the fourth one? Sound, connection, movement, and meditation, which is your breath too. But what's the connection to sound and releasing?
So, my understanding of it, and we've talked about this before, everything is energy, right? You were the one that actually told me, no, a rock does have energy,
Nikki.
It does. And I'm like, it's just a rock.
No, it's energy. It is so and scientifically, it's break it down. It's atoms, and then atoms with energy. Yeah.
So everything is energy. And so when you're creating a sound, that is an energy. That is a frequency, right? Yeah. So, it is just so therapeutic. So the reason why we Om at the beginning and end of a class.
And Om is throat or heart chakra?
Well, if you really want to break down the chakras, the Om is the third eye, as well as the crown chakra. Okay. If you're going to the word. Yeah. But Om, to be quite honest, for beginning and end of a yoga practice, if we're not talking breath work or sound healing by any means, Oming it connects you to your vagus nerve, so therefore bringing you down to the parasympathetic state. Okay. It also, with the vibrational, it does get that chi flowing. It does start get that energy within the chakras, maybe the nodis. Okay. I'm not super familiar with those. Yeah. So it just starts to get the frequencies and the vibrations throughout the whole body to a cellular level, our cells. If you don't have gas in the car, you ain't gonna go. Right. So you do need the energy there. So it just kind of creates that flow there. Oming also helps because of the vagus nerve, just kind of bring you to a one-pointed focus. So it just does really connect the breath with the mind, with the body, and bring you to the current moment, therefore bringing you more internally within your own physical self. Within getting to the sound healing, there is a specific chant that you want to say for each chakra, and you're obviously focusing on a certain area within the body. Right. That's the way to the ram, the color, man, totally. Whatever, all that, And even within my training, and it's something I've been, again, more recently, meditating is my daily practice that I'm going to these days, and I love it. But there's even certain sound healings that you can do for your respiratory system, your digestive system, your sinuses. It's just so much deeper. So I don't know the best way to kind of explain it, but it's just kind of if you think of yourself as a pond within you, and it's not moving, there's no breath there, it's just stagnant. If a pond doesn't move or get that movement, then you're gonna create algae and moss and so much gross stuff. Right. Yeah. And it smells bad. Yeah. Doesn't I don't know. Anyway, so then you just the way I view it is you're throwing a pebble in the middle of the pond and then it vibrates kind of out and just kind of wakes everything up a little bit and just kind of helps connect the dots a little more. Bring awareness to things where that pond stays stagnant, and doesn't move. Vibrate. Good idea, Or the ones where it's having a storm happening and it's in chaos and it can't find that stagnancy. So again, there yin yang, there's stagnancy and chaos. You got to find the balance. There could be both happening within. Yeah, and we got to find that place in the middle where it's the rhythms of the pond. The rhythm of the water naturally wants to find a rhythm that feels. Feels the easiest flow. It's what we'll do. Find the easiest path, the easiest flow. I heard something that we in our modern today in our modern day society with our lights and our phones and our videos and radios and microwaves and everything, our nervous system takes in just as much stimuli in one day as the Roman empires used to in their entire life. Wow. So if we're really not taking that time to shut the lights off and to sit and breathe and to just really be and feel, there's going to be so many storms happening within our own little container of a universe.
We wonder why we're anxious,
vibrating,
or shutting down,
right? Anxious,
which is also anxiety. Shutting
right,
opposite
both.
end of it.
Like
so much I can't shut down.
Exactly, we're always in that sympathetic state, and we're not taking enough time to really just like shut off and just be still. You can't have action 100%. You need the yin yang. You need the stillness.
Yeah, for sure. I tell my clients that are anxious, because I know it sounds weird, like to om when you've ever done it, even in a class with people that are oming with you, the first few times you're like, this feels weird.
Yeah, why are we doing this?
Like it just sounds weird, it feels weird. You're kind of quiet
you're
at
like,
first
this is
until it vibrates. It feels culty, it's like, this is what we do, okay. But once it vibrates in the room and you can feel the energy, if you've ever had sound bathing, the same thing, you're just like, okay, now my cells are vibrating, you feel it, like it's amazing. But if you've never done it, go in your car. Tell us, my clients, go in your car, because when you actually, I like the idea of like it's a breath, but it's a vibe. I have cats, and so when a cat, the other day I actually came out of my office here, and one of my PTSD guys was on the couch. He was literally, I think I don't have to told you this, that was it last Wednesday. He was laying down on the couch, and the cat was on his chest, and it was purring, and he was just like so calm. This is like a PTSD, like high vibrating guy, and he was like, "This is amazing," and I was like, "Pretty cool." And he's like, just like this cat was like. And he was just, and I was like, my work here is done. You can just give the cat a treat and call it a day.
No kidding. Right? Good to see ya.
So that is therapeutic.
Totally.
And there's research as to why cats purr is therapeutic. It regulates your nervous system. So it's the same idea. So if you want to try this on your own and you think it's weird, which we all do, I still do, it still feels weird. Even my dogs think it's weird when I do it in the house, right? Go in your car and just go even if you can't like just hum for, for a second. You're going to feel the vibration, and then do it a couple times. It's going to create that long out breath, which is parasympathetic anyways. It's going to kick in your parasympathetic nervous system anyways, and see if you don't feel better. Do it once. Do it 3 times. Do it whenever before you get into your house after a long day of work, and just see if you don't feel better. And then you might be like, oh, I felt a little shift. Okay.
Totally.
If that feels good, why not keep doing that?
Exactly.
It's free. Breathing is free. You do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
You might as well do a good job of it.
It's free. Right there.
It's a free benzo.
Totally.
It's not going to cause any negative side effects.
No, definitely not. No, but that's why they say like singing or laughter.
Singing, all the same.
Yeah. Or like when you're mad, you want to scream.
Yeah.
Or when you're really, really crying, like the crying, that it's all the same as oming. It's you're creating that vibrational frequency so that it can neutralize your nervous system for you.
Yeah, so it's like it's taking again that box of stuff and just being like, and letting it out.
Honestly, I do that all the time. And like anytime I'm just like, I don't know why, I just like feel tightness. I'll just be in the car and go,
right
my husband's just like gotten used to it, just like keep going. Like,
if you're with a partner that sighs a lot, just make an agreement. When I sigh, it's me releasing. It's actually really good. Because people think it's a negative thing. And I'm like, tell my couples, I'm like, sigh. And they're like, what? I'm like, sigh right now. Yawn.
Yeah.
Do that. Sigh. It releases nervous system energy. Like it gets the stuff out. You're like, okay. It helps you to get into a state. Yes. Animals do it all the time.
Yeah.
Every time my dog gets off the couch, he's like, my horse. They animals naturally do these sign vibration things anyways. We just think it feels weird, so we don't do it. We rather just be tight and be, just regulated, which makes no sense.
Our society
thinks
that we should go and never sit and stop and feel and listen and be still.
And if you want to go, I get it. I'm a go person. So, but in your car, when you have time, take the chance to just hum or hum or sing to a song.
Totally.
That vibration's going to change your number. Maybe not like, I love AC/DC and I love Metallica. Maybe not those songs. Although we did
hard metal.
We did a Yoga Nidra to Metallica acoustic one time.
Oh,
it was amazing.
That would be interesting.
It was really amazing.
That would be very interesting.
It was this Toby guy, and he played it and sang it, and I was like, oh, this is really good. So
I mean, acoustic.
It's the different vibration.
Like you're trying to create that acoustic vibe within you, I guess.
It was very cool.
Don't go listen to Screamo and think that you're
going
to feel
it's
relaxed.
Not going to be the same thing. We're talking about like think of a cat's purr.
Yeah.
Like how can I get that vibration in my body to be like, just that.
Even just that. It's so relieving. I like feel like I'm like a heavy sack of potatoes when I do it and just like letting it all out.
Yeah. In the horse world, this girl that used to give us a horse lesson, she would say, get on the horse, sit up straight, and then go, and think of butter melting from your shoulder all the way, and it has to do a straight line down your back. So make sure you're set up straight, so the butter should melt. It shouldn't be the butter should melt all the way down all of your foot, all the way down, and you'd be like, and it feels like you get longer.
Totally.
As you do, you feel like I just grew 2 inches on this horse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same with like if you, I don't know what kind of like sound healing you're doing with your course right now, but if you do like the sound healing where you work through the proper stages and stuff.
Yeah, we're doing
like,
color breathing, and then we're doing
that.
the tantric breathing and all the different ohms, like all the different chakras, with different meditations. So, and then we're doing fast, like ram, like in different,
Yes. Oh,
with the color and the shape and all the things.
Totally.
So,
yeah. And it's just so like interesting too, like I don't know how you feel, but like for me, like again with my neck right now, it's just like I'm focusing so hard on the colors and it's just like black that I know I'm just like blocked. It's crap up there. But it takes practice. Like even like here I am, I'm a yoga instructor, and here I am saying like I still just gotta go home and do my meditations and my yin and my we all have those stories and we all have those veils that we're just like trying to
because they're constantly being given to us too.
Totally.
So I think the idea is like start with the body. If you're new to yoga, start with the body. It's a simple way to start a hard complex thing. It's really not that complex actually. If we really break it all down, get really simple, start with the body, because the body is the car, the vehicle that we live in, and listen to those engine lights. Start with there.
Totally.
But we really simplify it more. We are embodied energy, and the energy that's the divine, that's giving this body life, literally, is just there to be like, hey, let me just check in and see what's happening in the system, and let's shed light and love so we can release the tensions that don't need to be there. There's no need to hang on to any of these tensions.
No.
If someone pissed you off yesterday, you don't need to hang on to it today.
No.
That makes no sense.
Exactly.
Release that.
Because
this body it's like, hey, you gave me some rust. Oh, good. Can I keep that rust on my car?
Yeah,
I'm gonna let it rust right here forever. Or be like, actually, it doesn't. Release that rust.
Well, and if you look at it that way, if you leave rust on your car, it's going to grow, right? And the body will work the same way. You just keep kind of pushing that sludge down. Yeah.
Which kind of gives it the message in, right? The body kind of, it's telling you there's sludge, and you're telling you you're worth the sludge. That's what we're deciding. You're worth the sludge.
Totally.
That's why I'm going to keep it there.
Totally.
And eventually the body's like, I'm telling you it's growing.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you the message top down that that's all you're worth to me. You're not worth cleaning up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they definitely have to. Yeah, right. It is really just sad because, like, again, our society these days, it only just focuses on like, well, what's your waist size and how big's your booty and like, it's so we're all different too, and that's why I say like you aren't your body, like you aren't always given like the Kim Kardashian physique when you're born.
Yeah.
Like it
Neither
is
they,
just
to be fair.
It does come.
They weren't given those physiques either.
No.
I haven't watched the show.
That's a different tangent. But like some people just aren't, like given the bodies that they want, but it's about learning how to live with it, and you can still love it. Like Sydney, for example, she is just so inspiring in how many obstacles she's overcome, and she's just like really realizing I am not defined by my body.
Yeah. And as she lifts those veils up, her body's healthier. It's amazing.
Totally.
Like literally out of a wheelchair, getting healthier. Yeah.
Right? So
that's like Joe Dispenza work. We talk about that all the time. Like he talks about, you create the veil. Now this is all this body can do for me, and the body's like, oh, okay, I could do more if you'd ask me, but okay.
Yeah.
Or take the veils off and be like, what else can this body do? How else can I energize it to heal and to move differently, to swim differently?
And the mind too, like whatever your reason is, whether it be the body or the mind of why you're getting into it, like. Some people, like even very close loved ones to me, are just like, well, like this is the life we're given. Like these are the obstacles that we're given. And so I'm going to dwell on it. Or I'm going to stress about it. Or I'm going to like, be so like love them because they're like a part of my family and they are very important people to me. But it's just sometimes you just want to like shake them and be like, you can change the future.
Yes. like why do you want to obsess about those things?
The past defined you, but like try to find the good in how it defines you.
My favorite monk, I think I've told you this 1,000 times, my favorite monk, the guy, Gabor, whatever, got the 2 gold stripes, he always says, you had a problem in life? Yes. Can you fix it? Yes. Then why worry? You got a problem in life? Yes. Can you fix it? No? Then why worry?
Exactly. What a...
Right?
There we
Brilliant.
go. There's a definition of yoga.
Monks. That's yoga right there. Exactly. Instead we're hiding, got a problem in life? Yes. Can I fix it? Yes. But I'm going to worry about it anyways. Problem in life? Yes. I fix it? No. But I'm going to worry anyways. Like we're choosing the wrong notes. Like why?
Well, and that too, like if you really get down to it of like, like the nervous system on a whole. Like if you're sitting there in the moment stressing, like something just came to you, like the universe will still throw you lemons
Absolutely.
at the end of the day.
It's a guarantee of life.
Like it is going to happen. You can sit and be a monk, for example. Well, they probably like don't see much because they're like in a cave somewhere.
But maybe they do.
But maybe they do. I don't know. But like you can sit and do yoga with me all that you want.
Yeah.
But I am not going to stop the universe from throwing you lemons.
Yeah.
I am trying to teach you how to kind of pay attention to your nervous system and pay attention to how it shifts around certain things, so that like in that moment, if you're really stressed and freaking out about something that just happened to you, you've got so many veils and blinders on you, you can't make a sound decision of how to get to the solution of the problem. I've always been very like solution focused and just like very like calm and just be like, well, that is the life. So like how to move forward. Like even before yoga, I'm just like, no skin off my back. Let's just move on. Like get to the solution. But like the more stressed you are, the more confusing and harder it is to see the end game and the end result, and how are you going to get yourself out of this hole or this situation. So if you just take the time to just breathe, cry, regulate, hum, whatever, then it will take you a minute to know it. It's not going to make lemonade, but it will help give you some direction of how to get there with more clarity for sure, so that you are in the future creating the life that you want to live.
It creates adaptation. You can adapt.
Totally.
It creates more flexibility, not just in your body, but literally flexibility in your life. Like, oh, I'm being thrown these lemons. I'm literally in a storm, and if I'm veiled, I'm rigid, and so therefore I have less options. But if I'm flexible, like I can climb that tree, I can do this thing. Like I'm not just metaphorically, physically, but literally.
Totally.
In your mind.
You can flow with it.
Yeah.
Like if you ever are swimming in an ocean or in the river, we'll go with a river. If you're going down a river and you get caught in a current or something, you're supposed to like go sideways, like with it, you know, or like the ocean, just float there and it will take you where you need to go. Maybe don't go float in the ocean, because that could take you like out there.
Current
but you know what I mean?
But I guess
like,
even
ride
then,
the wave.
right? Even if a current takes you out, if you're panicking and fighting the current, right? You kind of want to swim sideways, keep going sideways until you find the current that's less to swim back to shore. But instead of fighting the current, just let in the flow of it to take you with you. And that's still the metaphor of like swimming against the current.
Totally.
Which is still rigid. Once we figure out the flow is that thing where you're going with the current, letting the current, that's your actual source energy taking you, which is, you know, when you're really down the flow life in that, and I'm not there all the time, but there's moments in my life when I'm in that and I'm like, oh, and the current feels like it's taking you in this direction, and it feels simple, and it feels like the easiest way to go.
Totally.
Even if it feels like that's not the way society wants me to go, or this wants, but it feels like the most authentic, loving, compassionate for this self, which is obviously for others that are in your in your community as well.
Totally. I love that you said that it's not the way society wants you to go, because that is just like, that's really what's been getting me lately. Is just like, there's so many things out there that you could be doing. You know, if you go onto Instagram, there's all these influencers of do this and don't do this and da 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 da. And it's just, my instructors told me one time in training, which really resonates, and it's like how I live my life, because I'm such a curious person, is that like you can be open to all information, but really only just hold what resonates with you.
Beautiful.
So like you're not going to be flowing down the same river I'm necessarily going to be flowing, you know what I mean? Like you just got to like go with, and the more that you sit with yourself, the more you trust yourself. So therefore you'll be able to really, you know, sit on that raft and just flow down that river, because you know that you're picking the decisions that sit best with you. Like if you're trying to say yes to something and you're just tensing and your heart is racing and you're anxious about it, then it's probably not the decision that you should be making. Your
body's telling you something. Maybe pause and listen to that.
It is tricky though, because if it's out of your comfort zone and if it's for you, that will feel that way
different
too.
But there's a difference. You feel the difference.
Right.
Out of your comfort zone, right? I went surfing for the first time a couple days ago. Out of my comfort zone, because I'm terrified of water and sharks. I'm not going to swim, and I was like, oh God, shaking. But I also felt this like excitement and this like, I'm doing this. Like there's a pull towards something of like, this is fun. It's an adventure. Yeah, there's risks involved, but right, it wasn't a flow place of like, this feels rigid. It wasn't like that, because without that I wouldn't do it. It wasn't forcing it. It feels very different. If you're doing a decision where you're like, this feels forced, like you're walking down an alley and you have that feeling of like, this doesn't feel good, trust that.
Exactly.
Like, oh, my guts are like really tingling, and it says no, because now you're in tune with your body and your sensations. Like, oh, I'll turn around.
the gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's a literal thing.
It's a literal
You
thing.
hold
It's
so
biologically
many
wired into us. It's
emotions
wired into
in
us.
there.
Like we're
Yeah,
literally, again,
literally.
animals know. Why don't animals in the pasture eat the poisonous weeds? They know.
They know.
It's
Smell it,
wired into
turns
us.
them. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
They're like, that doesn't smell good.
Yeah,
No. Like there's
totally.
Yeah, we have it too. We just don't pay attention.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we always just think that someone else has the better answer that told us on the news or told us on Instagram or whatever. This is the way it should be. And it's just,
Which brings us full circle back to the coming home. Like the yoga, you know, there's so many benefits and so many ways to do yoga. But if we boil it down to what you said at the beginning, it's coming back home. That instead of listening to the Instagram and the news and not that those, you can be open to all the information, be open to it all. But then settle into this home space of like yourself with your source energy, with source. Of like what actually resonates for this that is me in this incarnation of my life, of this experience of my life, this what I'm walking into, what resonates with me. And I will then be mindful of my filter, which is my RS in my brain. I'll be mindful of the filter that I create that will then bring into my attention and my awareness of that actually serves, that aligns with my values and my essence and my, you know, love, my ethics.
Totally. It is so true. And honestly, with my own journey recently, I've only just really noticed, and that seems weird because we're always working towards it. And I have been working towards it for such some time. But I was actually talking to my brother the other day on the weekend or whatever, and him and I are really close. And I was just telling him how like my business is slower than like what I envisioned it to be, but that is okay. It is what it is. That is my life, and it'll happen when it happens. And so I was just kind of like venting to him about that. And he goes, yeah, but I'm just so envious of you. And it's so interesting to hear that because him and I, we've been so close always. And he was like the straight A, didn't need to even go to class. He just shows up and writes the test and gets like a 90. And I'm like, C's get degrees, you know? And I'm like in class every day. Hard, And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting that you're envious of me. But he goes, but that's because you found your passion. And he's like, I don't really know what my passion is. He's like, you've got the yoga and you're passionate about that. And like,
and the
yes,
body in general.
Totally. I was just going to say, I'm like, it's a little bit deeper than yoga for me. Like I am like a just like mind, body, soul wellness seeker at the end of the day. But yoga helps get you there and start to ask those questions and be curious for sure. It's like kind of the kicker to all the start of that. But it's just because like I've taken the time to sit with myself and be like, what do I want and what do I like and what relationships do I want in my life and what relationships are serving me to get farther in my life. And if we're so caught up with the veils and the external
business,
the external of like, well, you should be doing these many classes in a week, or you should be making this much money, or you should have the big house or the car, or then we are so far outside of ourselves that we're really not being able to like. You can create all of that, but are you really going to be happy when you do it? If you're, exactly.
We're back in the currents.
Totally.
So your brother's like, I'm in the currents and I'm working hard. I'm getting some good muscle mass here, and I'm getting cheered on. I'm getting money for being in the currents but you're like, you're in the flow. Yeah. You're in the river where you're floating. He's like, I think I envy that. That looks nicer and sweeter. The life over there looks sweeter and more, meaningful.
And it's not to say that he needs to go and be a yoga instructor. Yeah. It's about like you do have to just like sit and be safe with yourself to really know like where is your direction in life then. Like, what is that? Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And yoga is an invite to do that.
Yoga is an invite to sit with yourself and feel the body. And the more you sit with yourself, like those thoughts come in and you'll just get clarity on like, oh, I don't really like that part of my life, so I'm going to stop that. And it will just naturally take you into, because you're going to start, like you said, it's coming from a place of love. So the more time that you spend loving yourself, the more time you're going to be creating like scenarios or putting yourself in situations or making the right actions and reactions to get you to where you want to be. I kind of like had this one like meditative state where I kind of like visualized like my life as a whole, like on a soul level, and the story I'm telling myself or I'm creating, not really telling, but like the story I'm creating within my life is that I'm here, and like you're always presented with choices, you know what I mean? Like the universe is always going to tell you like this way or this way, right? Like every single day of your life, this way or this way. Are you going to take this way home, or are you going to take that way home, right? And like you take one and it's just going to shift your universe like so profoundly going forward. But like if you're veiled, it's going to be throwing you for so many loops potentially.
Because those veils come with you. So I make this decision, and then those biases that those veils carry will then go, okay, we're doing this now. And then we're going to bring all of our past experiences and beliefs, or veiled beliefs and biased beliefs, and make sure we find those in that new direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Until I actually like realized, like I always knew like I had like a short temper, and I always just was like, oh, well, that's just like what I was taught, you know, like it is like the environment I grew up in, right? And I was always aware of my past, like, not past life. Well, maybe. I know this is not my first time on earth, but you know what I mean? But my childhood, I always fully aware that my childhood does shape us into who we are, because I don't know any person who came from like the perfect childhood. So just to be quite honest, like unfortunately, I was aware of that at a young age of being like, oh, this isn't like really the life I want for myself, but it's impacting me now, and how do I change it? And I always knew that like my short little temper was just because that's how I was like taught in a way, like not taught to be that way, but you know, like you watch it when you're growing up. But until I actually just like with yoga sat and learned to be with myself, and until you really told me like, you're at the CEO, you are not your thoughts and you are not your emotions. I always used to be like, oh, I'm just hot-headed, you know what I mean? But it's just like, well, actually, no, I can be in control of those moments when you are, not you are.
This part's hot-headed for a reason, and what does it need from you?
Exactly.
That it's not getting. Why is it so loud?
Exactly.
It's loud at your table for a reason, so take a second to listen to it and find out what it needs and give it to it.
Right?
Yeah.
And the more that I really just sat and loved myself for being like, you know what, I survived, or I like grew from it, and I can change this, and this doesn't have to be my story. I don't have to be hot-headed and mean or a bitch or whatever they want to call you. Then like, don't get me wrong, again, it'll still throw you lemons, it will still test you no matter how much meditation or yoga you do, but it does change your reaction, like you think about it a little bit more, and it's just like so profound that like it can catastrophically just change the rest of your life. You're in the director's seat.
You're in the director's seat. Yeah. So how do people find you? So they're all going to want you to teach them yoga. And you can teach them online via Zoom.
Yes, via Zoom. Yes, we could definitely do that.
I recommend private classes. They're my favorite because she adjusts. It comes from and adjusts your body. And
that is like my favorite.
Yes, because
my favorite.
You also do Thai massage, which is kind of painful, but whole nother level.
Like it hurts so good.
Right?
Like, we love it, but hate it. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Namaste __Nikki. There are 2 underscores there.
Namaste __ Nikki. And Nikki.
Nikki is my Namaste Nikki Instagram page. You can find Namaste Nikki on Facebook if you wanted to, or you can email me namaste.nikki, NIKKI4 @gmail.com.
Awesome. And I'll put those all in our show notes so people can link it there too, and I'll link your Instagram page for us. And
totally.
Yeah,
I am just custom packages, essentially, like whatever you want. We'll sit down, we'll talk about your goals, how frequent you want to do it. I'll come to your house, we do Zoom. It's whatever suits your vibe. Like, the moral of today's story, I do not want to provide extra stress to your life. I want to be there to provide a safe space so that you can de-stress and what's the word? Detach, I guess.
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
the life and take a moment for yourself. So like, if me coming to your house is stressing you out, like then we won't do it that way.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally. Start where you are. Like wherever you are today, start where you are. The invitation, yoga is a container that invites you to start where you are, wherever you are. To create a safe space, to start to understand, learn this body. Start there if you want. And then once you open up the mind, body, emotion, soul connection, that's a never-ending journey. It's really beautiful and really fun.
No. Once you're on it, it's a train you'll never get off. Although times you're kind of like, but I would never change it.
No.
For anything in the world. No. It's honestly slightly obsessive.
It is, because you see things differently. You'll never see the world the same, because you see people else on their own journeys being like, we're all source energy, having different experiences, different journeys. So therefore, I can love every other sentient being on this planet from a place of, you are pure love and light too. Maybe you don't like your behaviors. Maybe you don't like how you show up in the world because of that. Whatever. I'm not going to judge you. No. It's not my job. My job is to love your sentient being that's behind that. And
Totally.
wish you a container of
yeah.
yoga, a container of whatever it is for you.
Totally.
Of place
Wish you
of self-love.
healing.
Yeah, wish you
Yeah.
healing.
Exactly. It's so true.
Yeah.
There is only love the deeper you go.
There is.
The more you love yourself, the more you can love other people,
Well, self,
even when they
the
do
self
you
at
wrong.
the again, peel back the word self. Self is the same as all.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Right? We are all source energy, so we are all love. So we just are love.
We are.
So we remember
Like,
that. Yeah.
Think about yourself when you're angry. You're all just like constricted,
Yeah.
and
Rigid.
tight,
You're
and
back on that rigid again.
Yeah, exactly. Like who wants that?
You're in the chaos of the ocean again.
Yeah, exactly. Just like
Yeah.
flopping around in the waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Nightmare.
Very terrifying. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nikki.
Yes.
You're amazing.
Yes, thank
We
you.
adore
This
you.
was
And
fun.
yeah, we'll have to do if you have questions. Let us know. DM us or Instagram us or whatever. All the ways that people social media find us.
Yeah, whatever works for you. We are there.
And yeah, get to know
Cool.
Nikki and get her to do some yoga with you.
Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Which means what?
The light within me shines within the light within you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We're really glad you're here with us on this journey.
The best way to support this podcast is to subscribe and give it a 5-star review.
See you next time.
This has been a Bread Dog Studios production.